Hello everybody, welcome back to the kitchen and to the third part of backyard to table cooking. Got a whole pile of tomatoes here. There's a whole lot more coming from the vines. They're all green, but I've been storing these in the fridge and there's enough to make a batch of red sauce, tomato sauce. So that's what we're going to do today. It's going to be part of the whole dinner that we make later on in the week. So what are we doing right now? We're boiling the tomatoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, and then after that we're going to mash them to get the seeds and skins out. Alright, so we're putting the tomatoes in the boiling water. And show everyone what you did with the skin there. So you sliced an X in it.
Mm-hmm. Both sides.
And what's that for?
It's just so the skin comes off easier.
Alright. Speaking of which, that contraption over there is what we're going to be taking the skins and seeds out with. Alright, so they've been in there for probably about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. See, they're all mushy and falling apart. Yeah, maybe kind of pre-break them up a little bit.
Or maybe not put as many in.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea.
Also on these, we didn't cut the very center of the stem out. I started doing it on these here because it's kind of hard and woody, and it's really not going to mush at all as we crank this thing around. But you see there, it's starting to come out. Got a lot more cranking to do. Alright, now we're preparing all the seasonings and everything. Got some garlic. Smashing them to get the skins off. Unfortunately, these didn't come from the garden. Maybe next year we'll plant them. These get planted in the fall if you were to plant them yourself. Then we have some basil. Last couple of sprigs of our tired basil plant. And there's our huge pot of sauce over there. It's got to be at least a gallon, if not more. That's a pretty big pot. So we got some garlic browning in there and some olive oil. I'm going to add 2 onions as well. Do it under low heat so they don't burn. What other spices are we adding? Okay. Herbs or whatever.
So thyme, a little bit of red pepper, celery salt, rosemary, onion powder, and a little oregano. And then of course salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper? Yep. Alright. Oh, and also my, one more thing, my secret ingredient. A little bit of brown sugar helps. It kind of does the same thing salt does. It'll bring out flavor, but it's a slightly different dimension, of course, being sweet rather than salty. But you can't overdo it, then it just tastes sweet. But a little bit of that definitely adds to it. All right, we're going to add the sauce in. There we go. Alright, so now we got the basil, handful of it, celery salt. Or you can always add more, you can't add less. Just a little bit of red pepper. Remember, red pepper gets a lot hotter when you're cooking it. So, unless you really like spicy stuff, better to err on the side of caution. Some brown sugar. Of course, this is all Italian grandmother measurements. That is, there are no measurements. You just sort of put it until it looks good, and then if it doesn't taste good, you add a little bit more. This is onion powder, some rosemary, and thyme. Plenty of black pepper. And some salt. I forgot the oregano. Give it a taste test and see if it needs any adjustment, and then we'll put it into canning jars. So, prepared on the stove here is our canning pot, filled up with water. We boiled it and turned it down to a simmer. Put the empty jars in there to sterilize them. We're probably going to need to do more jars than that, so after we finish filling those, we'll put the second batch of jars in there and boil the water for about, I think, 10 minutes or so, and that'll sterilize everything, and prepare those for filling with sauce. Also, prior to canning, I will heat up this pot of water. The rings are in here. I will also add the lids. The rings are reusable, the lids are not, and put them in there, boil them for a little while. That'll just preheat everything and sterilize everything, most importantly. And also, if you have one of these, put this in and boil it and sterilize it as well. And if you don't have one, buy one. This is a canning funnel. Helps you pour the sauce in without getting the sauce all over the lip of the jar. Okay, we're ready to go. The sauce is simmered for a while. I have my rings and lids in here, and I brought the big pot full of canning jars back to a boil. Sterilized jar, funnel, so you want a little bit of headspace. Between headspace is the distance between the top of whatever you're canning and the lid. I'm going to aim for, I don't know, whatever that is, 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, something like that. Now, we'll pick out a lid. Grab me a paper towel. Do a quick wipe on the rim. Make sure it's dry, because if it's not, it'll affect the seal. Put that on there. And take a ring. Drop that on. And then just tighten it down, just fingertip tight. You don't want to crank it down too much, because when you put it in the boiling water to can it, you want any pressure in there to escape, and that's what'll create the vacuum when it cools down. Okay, so they're all done. Of course, we had a little bit of remainder that didn't fully fill up one of the jars. We should have prepared some small jars as well for that situation, but we didn't. That's okay. We'll just I'm going to can it anyway, and I'll just keep that one in the fridge and eat that one first. So now, putting the jars back in the canner. Make sure they're all submerged. And you see that one is floating there, the one that isn't fully filled. And I left that one empty jar, I can't really see it, but there's one extra jar in there that I didn't need. I left it in there just for spacing. So now, I'll cover it up and start the timer for 10 minutes. Alright, the timer has rung. 10 minutes have passed. So now I can take these out and put them on a folded up towel so they're not directly touching your colder countertop. It'll kind of insulate them. And let them cool down slowly. And most likely, if you're hanging out in the same room, oh, did you hear that? That was fast. You'll hear them pop. Wow. Huh. Usually it takes, in my minimal experience, usually it takes a couple minutes outside of the water for them to pop. But it's a fun noise to hear. It lets you know that you did a good job. When you hear that pop, you know that a vacuum has been created inside the jar. Pops the top down and holds that seal nice and tight until you open it. You can see they're nice and hot. They're still bubbling inside. So just let them sit there overnight, let them cool down on their own, and then they'll be ready to be dated on top so you know when you made them. And enjoy. Now keep an eye out for the next video coming up. Hopefully shortly we'll be making a backyard to table dinner feast. So thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to see more and come back for more.